Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ambush on Air. I'm your host, Sam Bush, and as always, bringing you topical content all around sales, partnerships, and marketing, all in the Microsoft channel. Without boring you too much on what I do, because you guys have already heard my intro, what now? About 47 times. The podcast is getting up there in the last 2 years. So we'll see. I'll probably hit my 50th before my 2-year anniversary, which was not my goal, but that is all good. So today we've got a really exciting topic. Basically, the title of this is Show Me the Demo. So I brought on my friend Ben Cole. He posted something on LinkedIn about a month ago that sparked a fire in me because he's doing it the way that I think most kind of sales and executive leadership should be pursuing the way that they set up their demo experiences for buyers in our space, which is incredibly unique space to be in, is it not? Right. All right. So Ben, why don't you do a little intro on you? Who are you? What do you do? Where are you at?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm currently with Rux Software. I started ERP Connect about 5 years ago. We went through an acquisition last July, so it's already been
Congrats.
7 months or so, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I had originally created something I called the Business Central Toolbox, and it was just a collection of a handful of different kind of gap filling apps for Business Central, kind of like the old Apple commercial, right? There's an app for that. That's kind of the way I like to think about it in Business Central. Yeah, I've been doing that for about 5 years now. Kind of have that larger team look and feel now with the Rux brand behind it. It was a merger between us and Open Door Technology, which brought a bunch of rental and asset management apps to the table as well, which is cool. But yeah, I just am super passionate about fixing people's problems in BC, and that's kind of, I think, probably what's led us all to be here today. So super excited for the convo.
I love it. So what's your role like now? What's your job title? What's your daily life look like?
Yeah, my official title's strategic sales executive. So I'm working on a lot of our big deals and just trying to get people to give that mutual love for the BC Toolbox apps, right? But most of my day today is doing demos, working with partners, working with end users, really anybody who expresses an interest in those Business Central Toolbox apps. I'm talking to them, I'm getting in front of them, I'm trying to get them to fall in love with the apps. And then hopefully at the end of the call, or maybe the end of the week or end of the month, something like that, hopefully they say, hey, this is what we want. Can we get it installed? And obviously start a subscription and all that good stuff. So yeah, mainly if it was just one word, it'd be sales now.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. What a transition. I love that for you. Were you in sales before you started ERP Connect Consulting?
No, so I've been doing, Dynamics, we can just call it in general, right, for about 10 years. Started doing Business Central right when it came out in the cloud in 2018. Prior to that was dabbling with a few different things, mainly Dynamics GP, but I was always more on the implementation side. So kind of doing the solution architecture through actually implementing the product to then even supporting it, right? Like doing a full life cycle, really truly like full life cycle day one from when, the salesperson handed it off to post go live support, right? Because I think at the time, a lot of the different partners, I worked for a few different of them before working for myself, right? Nobody was big enough to have a full implementation team, a full sales team, like all this stuff, right? Like 10 years ago, everybody was kind of fighting for that real estate. So we would get done with the project, and then there'd be 5 people that knew BC on our team, and then they'd send us a ticket to support, and we'd get the ticket routed back to us, right? So that was my background. And then in 2021 is when I started ERP Connect. At the beginning days of ERP Connect, we were doing both your traditional like implementation and support type work while building the Business Central Toolbox. And then obviously over the years that has transitioned fully away from the professional service side of things, strictly into the ISV that we are today. I think the first step in that was rebranding as Business Central Toolbox. And then obviously more recently, just doing the complete rebrand as Rux Software, which is just, straight up ISV, selling software, supporting our own software, and doing a lot of work through partners as well.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I love the journey. I also wanted to make sure we talked about it because I think it really influences how you sell. If you've been an implementer before or a consultant before, switching into a sales mindset sometimes in other channels or different work environments outside of Microsoft or other ERP channels is significantly different because those hats are so widely separated. But in our space, it's like if you've built the solution, you've been in the tool, it's so much easier to have, at least in my opinion, but correct me if I'm wrong, the conversation of how to implement it into something you've already worked with because you know those pain points already because you've already talked to hundreds of other people with the same ones.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a game changer and a separator, right? I think the book Start With Why always comes to mind for me, right? Like, because there's a lot of times when I'll be showing something to somebody, it's a CFO, CEO, high level executive, like whoever it is, right? Somebody that has the questions of why are we doing this, right? Because they're the ones writing the check, and being able to speak to that rather than just showing them the demo and then going, hey, cool, look at this shiny stuff that I built. And then they go, okay, it looks great, but why do I need this, right? Like, why should I give you my money to do this, right? And then I can speak very deeply to it, not only because we've implemented it for hundreds of clients, but also I've used a lot of these tools myself to run my own business, right?
Exactly.
Because there's been a lot of things we built out of just pure selfish need. Like, hey, I need to send invoices automatically out of my system because it's a waste of time for me. All right, let's spend a couple hours this week building it, right? Okay, we build it,
Exactly.
and then client asks me, oh yeah, we do have an app for that. I use it internally every day for
Exactly.
myself, right? And then the CFO, let's say, is like, oh wow, so you can do XYZ for me and it will make this meaningful impact for my team. And it'll be like, yep, I got one to send right now. You want me to show you live? And they're like, yeah, wow, that's super cool. You
Yes.
kind of are really practicing, what you preach. And I
Exactly.
think it all really comes down to that why, right? Because we can show them cool stuff all day long, but if you've never stepped, I think it kind of go back to the early days of implementation. If we're working remote and the warehouse manager is asking for advice and you've never even stepped foot in a warehouse,
Oh my
well,
gosh.
what are we talking about, right? Like,
Exactly.
you've never done an inventory count, but you're telling me how to do it in Business Central, and then you're like, have you ever actually done this yourself? And they're like, no. And you're like, so you don't know why it's difficult, right? In practice, in the
Yeah.
textbook, it all sounds great, right? But to adjust inventory in the warehouse on the BC mobile app, right, or whatever it is,
Hmm.
um, you just can't empathize. No, you can't empathize with that,
Exactly.
right? So it makes it very difficult to build the trust, right? Which I think is a lot of what we're going to talk about today. It's the
Definitely. Definitely.
being able to walk a mile in their shoes or whatever you want to say,
Yes.
right?
Walk a mile in these Louboutins,
Yeah,
I would say.
something like that.
So one thing you said in this LinkedIn post that really grabbed me was when building kind of your like start to finish sales experience, you directly quoted what I say all the time, which of course I was like, well, we got to have this is no one cares about your company history. And I could not agree more. The number of presentations that I've sat in, even just buying software as a marketer, I'm like, I don't care how many customers you have. Are they happy? Can you show me? Can I talk to them and see if they're actually a good customer match for me? Right. So, what kind of sales like process why do you think so many sales teams still lead with this sort of mindset?
I think it's the textbook approach, right? It's probably what's in everybody's training deck and it's easy, right? Like, if you have no
Playbook.
idea, yeah, if it's a playbook. If you hire 10 SDRs and you're trying to get in training, like, the first easy thing to do is, we've been in business since 1979 and we have 1,000 customers and this is our average NPS score and things, which, like, are all good metrics, like, and that's totally fine. But just throw them on a piece of paper if you want me to know about them, and send it over to me, and I might look at it, kind of like, hey, like, I look online when I'm buying something, right? Like, it has 4,000 5-star reviews. Okay, I'm probably going to buy it, but, like, don't lead with that for me to purchase whatever it is on Amazon or something, right? Like, I'm first looking for what I need to fix my problem on Amazon or whatever it is, and then I find the 3 that fulfill the criteria, and then the final thing I do to make, kind of eliminate some decision is, like, look at the metrics and look at the ratings and things like that. And I think that's what I compare, like, the company history, and, like, company history involves a lot of different things, but it doesn't make anyone buy anything, right? Like, nobody cares. Like, and again, I probably am more biased on that point too, because in my early days, right, like, first week, first month, first year, whatever, you have a couple customers, right? So
Exactly.
you have no company history, right?
No.
But you can build on a lot of other things that aren't as tangible as a customer, or they're tangible in different ways, right? Because
Yeah.
I think the big pitch in the early days, when it was, me and maybe one or two other people, was nobody's going to care about your business as much as we do,
There
because
you go.
it's going to be the 2 or 3 of us every single day. You're not going to call support. Here's my cell phone number. We're going to do your implementation end to end.
Yeah.
Hey, how long? Like, this is super risky for us. How long have you been in business? We've been in business for 6 months, or whatever, whatever it
Yeah.
was, right? But it's like, also, that puts, like, it's actually beneficial for you in a way, because I've got everything riding on this. If we
Hmm.
fail at this implementation, I have no references and we're going to
Exactly.
crumble. And, like, so it's actually more risky for me not to do a good job than for you to hire us on. And again, like, how do you articulate that? I don't know. It's very difficult for
Yeah.
the folks, right? But in those early days, the first 10 had to go off without a hitch, right? Because all we had no company history. So we were
Exactly.
relying on this being our history. We're paving our history as we speak. So
You're
that
a part of it. Yep.
hopefully in 5 years, we can put it on a slide that now we have a couple hundred clients or whatever,
Exactly.
and then never use that slide because I'm never
Yes.
going to talk about my company.
Because it can go on the website, and if somebody really needs the info, they'll ask.
Yeah.
First off, they'll ask.
Yeah.
Second of all, they'll find it before they get to you. Most B2B purchase decision makers have already touched at least 10 pieces of content related items about your software before they even land on your personal website to submit a form. So the number of things they already know about you probably all encapsulates that. They already know Duop is based in Helsinki, Finland. They already know we have an office in Austin. Why do I need to put it on a slide? Yeah. Okay, so doing so many demos a week, what separates a high converting demo from the ones that lose people in the first 5 minutes? You've got people who come in, you've got, rapid clip of either discovery and demo that you're doing. Where do you think people mess up in the first 5?
So for me, I try to uncover as much as I can before we even jump on the demo, right? Because like you said, they've already Googled everything. They've chat GPT'd it, like whatever. They've done
Exactly.
everything to get the information they want. They come in. I was doing one right before this call on our invoice and statement delivery tool. Like they already know 80% of what the app does, right? So I'm like, hey, okay, out of what you've seen so far, before we jump into the demo, what are you hoping to get out of it, right? Like what are the main questions or the main things that maybe weren't clear, right? Because it gives them an opportunity. And I'm being like, I think it opens me up for vulnerability, right? Like, hey, what did I not provide that we should provide in the future, right? And then they'll take that as an opportunity to be like, okay, Ben's kind of opening up a little bit. We're going to just list out the things. And I will say, hey, we can use those as an agenda for our call. And I'll make sure that I hit on all the things. And if we have extra time, I'll talk about some other cool bells and whistles that we have that we can also touch on. And then I think that for the first 5 minutes helps us lock into exactly what they want to get out of the call. But aside from the actual informational piece of it, I think it's just building the trust and getting their buy-in, right?
Exactly.
Like as much as, there's certain softwares, yes, that you're just going to download on like Instagram app, for example. Like you're just downloading that on your phone. You're not calling anybody. You don't care. Like, your friends are using it. Yeah, you know your friends are using it and you want to share your pictures and your stories and you do it, right? But for B software, right, a lot of the stuff that we're selling in Business Central, there's still that human aspect behind it because they want to know that when they come across a question, which everyone will inevitably have, are they going to take care of it, right? I think that's really all people want, right? They want the software to work, but when they have questions, they want to know that I can call Ben or I can call Sam and they're going to answer and they're going to, if they don't know the answer, they're going to get it to somebody who can answer that fairly quickly. So I also try to do that in the first 5 minutes, right? Kind of tee it up to, hey, we're going to get all your questions answered today, but also I'm your go-to guy moving forward. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to be your one-stop shop for right now until obviously we get through like implementation and support and things like that. Then you go to a different team. But to make sure from now until the point you go live, right, that you're going to be taken care of, if you have anything, I'm your guy, right? And I want them to be able to trust me and know that we're going to take care of them, right? Because at the end of the day, I think that factors, I would almost say half of the equation, right? Like, do I like working with these people?
Yes.
Right? Because if they don't, like, there's certain software that's just so good that you're going to buy it no matter who you talk to. I've talked to plenty of great products out there where the salespeople are just jerks, and I still buy the software because it's the blue chip piece of software that you need. But there's others when you're talking about, especially ISVs and VC, there's a lot that have 10 competitors, right? And if your software's average and your people don't get that warm fuzzy feeling, next, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, I think something that I found so interesting about, I don't know if it was about 5 years ago, I was in the market for an intent software platform, which is a super niche marketing and sales thing. And I had used both of these solutions before. So I already had lived experience in both of them. And I was like, they're kind of apples to apples. There's a couple different functionality things that I prefer in one or the other, but it could go either way. So I was getting a budget check. And one of the sales reps the whole time treated me like I was like already an existing customer and like gave me nothing, like just was like, oh yeah, you've used this before, so you should be all set. And had this really weird experience with me. And so I went with the other one and he came back and asked me why. And I was like, because you didn't ask me any questions. You didn't involve me in the sales cycle. Just because I've already used it before doesn't mean some things have changed. you know? So I think the trust factor can be broken in that first 5 minutes just as quickly as it can be gained. And that's what I've always been like really, really focused on. And part of why I picked working at Duop is I know this team is a trusted team of people who do exactly what you say, which is making sure that our clients are fully understood that we are here for them and we are in business because we want to help them and we'll do the best we can. Right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
People buy from people at the end of the day. And I know that's a silly phrase that's super archaic, but it's true. A lot of times it is very true, especially in our space. Because like you said, we got all kinds of competitors out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So can't have a podcast with me without talking about AI. So now that we've got AI and Copilot and everybody coming along, and really, how do you see that changing buyer behavior since kind of it all kicked out? What do you assume that they already know about you?
Yeah, I think kind of like what you talked about earlier, just taking that kind of Google search and extrapolating it even further, right? Because I think in the past you could again search for best products for XYZ and you could see the reviews and things like that, which is great. And it would start to narrow your list down and that's what you'd reach out to for, an RFP or whatever you're looking for, right? And I think now take that times 10, right? Because the same questions now return a bunch more information. And then not only does it return the information, but then, ChatGPT and Copilot and all these others at the bot after you ask it, it's like, hey, by the way, are you interested in these other? It's kind of like selling itself, right? It's like,
Totally.
It's like, would you like fries with that, right? Like if you buy,
would you like me to build out an entire 10-step strategy for you?
Yeah, exactly. And it will, right? So if we ask it about, if somebody's asking, hey, what's the best app to do this in Business Central? And let's say one of our apps comes up, right? And it's one of the three that comes up, it says this app, and then two of our competitors, right? It'll be, would you also like comparative analysis about the price of each and the functions and the fit gap and what other ERPs it can do, right? So I think, again, now they're looking at that. It helps and it hurt. Well, it helps more than it hurts, but it does both, right? Because there are certain people now that will never even make it into our inbox that used to, right? Because we're just getting ChatGPT is just disqualifying us before we even get there, right? Whether that's right or not, right?
Totally.
But based on the information it has, it's either saying, yes, go talk to Ben, or no, don't go talk to Ben, right? So I feel like the people who are coming and talking to us are, one, a lot more qualified than they used to be. So that's good. There's still time wasters, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot less of them than there used to be. And two, the information that they're coming to the table with is typically more than we used to, right? I used to, let's say 3 or 4 years ago, a lot of those first conversations were pure demos. They've never seen it or never researched it. And it's like literally, hey, I've got a recorded video online, but sure, I'll do it again live for 30 minutes because it's again and again and again and again, right? Whereas now, I'd say I still have those calls. Again, don't get me wrong, I still have those calls, but a lot of them now are solution, right? Which is the fun stuff for me, at least. It's the fun stuff, right? Like, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? I like this part, but can we also add this in? And it's more conversational and things like that. So again, whether there's pros and cons to everything. So again, I'm sure there's deals that we should have had and we would have been great fits for these people, but the way they typed it in, we're just not coming up, which again is what it is. So we'll again constantly from a marketing and sales standpoint have to keep beefing that up on the back end to show up in those AI generated results and things like that. But on the flip side, the deal time and the deal flow, I'd say, is probably increased just because I've published a lot of good information online and it's getting picked up. And I think, again, it goes to being in different channels, right? Like you have to do stuff on LinkedIn and on blog posts and on your company website and wherever else you can put information, right? Because you never know where it's going to get pulled from, right? I love when I type something in and it's like a question I have, and then it returns something that I wrote like on Google. It's hilarious. And I'm like, wait, what? And then you look it up and it was from like 2019. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, I completely forgot how to do that in the last 7 years.
Exactly. It's funny how it comes back to haunt you like that. But it's so true. I mean, the job of a marketer in 2026 is completely different than it was even in 2020, even in 2024. Since I started at Duop, it's been about almost 2 months. Nice. I have basically just spent time on this exact like AEO, SEO. How do I get this content that we have that's great even better so it shows up in all the places I need it to be? Because I want people to be more educated than they are coming to us and have that volume increase as we continue to build.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was working on just like an internal, like I think just chat agents in general too. Like obviously the chat GBT piece is good, but something that I've kind of built internally for myself and would love to roll it out to, our company in a larger manner, right? Which is kind of like a knowledge base, right? We've got almost 40 products. So I just, when the Copilot Studio, kind of was first rolling out and I was just playing around with it and testing it. That was one of the first things I built. I took like 20 user docs, I loaded them up, built some prompts and things around that, and then clicked publish. And then I just started asking it questions, right? And it was like to test it to see if it was correct, right? Based on the information I provided. And then you can tweak things to provide better information. And then over time using it. So like now, for example, right, the people ask technical questions in emails. So I can link it to my email, and then the answer is a technical question, so it's a technical answer, right? And it can draft the email based on that, where it's just like the bullet points, right? Like, hey, how do I set this up? I'll still write a personal intro, and then I'll copy that, and then I'll write a personal outro. But it's like otherwise, I'm looking it up in the document and copy and pasting it anyway, so I don't screw it up, right? So I think things like that, again, it's just helping you save the time, right? And I think there's so much kind of AI slop out there on LinkedIn and stuff like that now that I'm not trying to do that, and I never do that kind of stuff. But having that personal voice on top of things, I think will continue to win in the long run, because it's just gotten worse and worse and worse, in my opinion. Like I just scroll past half. I wish I could I know you can block people and stuff like that, but I don't want to block people because they might post one thing. I don't want to never see them again, right? Totally. But there's just a lot of stuff out there that's like, wow, I have to scroll past so many things to get to a good thing now, right? It's just kind of frustrating.
I agree. I'm a big hater of AI generated like visuals in LinkedIn. Like I don't want to see this weird thing that has like it's basic. I don't even know what I'm looking at, and it has like 100 things in it, and I'm like, no, moving on. Like you used to be a really incredible thought leader to me, and now you're posting this, and I block it out mentally, so I'm not reading your article anymore. But that's a personal preference.
Yeah, it's tough. I saw one that was like, I can't remember what it was, but like the piece of information was like blatant on it, and he was kind of making fun of just the whole, factor in general. And it was like, look at how bad AI's gotten, and it was like the wrong information. But then the guy had like an arm coming out of his head,
and it's like
that. But that's not like, it was kind of part of the joke, right? Like that's not even what they were talking about. They were focusing on like the information, but just like and then this guy's got like an arm coming out of his head. Like yes, it's just like crazy how horrible it is.
It's crazy. I feel like some people need like a monitor and somebody to check and balance what they're using it for. But one day we'll have something like that, I hope. Yeah. Okay. One last boom question is, do you think the traditional sales deck is actually hurting revenue more than it's helping it?
I think with how fast everything is evolving, probably, right? I think for the traditional like SDR, BDR who gets hired, whether it's like straight out of school or from an industry job, and now it's their first time in sales and they're given the playbook doesn't work anymore, right? No. It will get you that first maybe 10%, but the problem is people are already doing the first 50% themselves. So the first 10% you're giving them, they already have, and they're kind of looking at you to add value. And if that's all you can give them, then you're not adding value. You're not adding value to their process anymore, right? Which again, I'll take all day long, because for everybody else that's still doing that, we'll blow them out of the water, right? So I'm not going to go preach that people shouldn't use the sales deck anymore.
Because, actually, my competitors should.
Yeah, just all of our competitors should use the sales book and hire a bunch of SDRs straight out of college, right? But yes, I do think it hurts, because a lot. And the other trouble of it, right, is that how do you get? It's that experience paradox, right? Like you need all this experience to be able to do the job. But now those low-level entry jobs are being replaced or augmented by AI. So if you're 23 years old and you're trying to get your first sales job and all you have is a sales deck, yes, you still need to learn, but also at the same time, potentially what will happen is, between you graduate university and you're 26 years old, 28 years old, whatever it is, right? Maybe that now condenses down to when you're 24, you have the same experience as you used to have when you're 28, right? So maybe it will help them in the long term if they know how to use the tools, because there's so much more information at their fingertips. I think when I was doing it, right, again, not from a sales perspective, but from a implementation perspective, I just had to do a certain amount of implementations before I felt comfortable. But if I had to go back now, knowing what I knew then, plus all these extra tools, I'm sure there are things where I could have just removed roadblocks much faster because you can just
Totally.
copy and paste it into AI and be like, hey, how do I overcome this roadblock? And it'll be like, here's how to
Yeah.
overcome the roadblock. By the way, would you like coffee to help with your brain fog for this afternoon? Here are 3 local coffee shops to help you. Like whatever it might be. But yes, I think at the end of the day, the short answer to your question is if all you're doing is reading off a script, people are using agents for that now. So like
Agree.
you're not standing out, right? Because the tribal knowledge is being kind of pushed further down, and it's being systemized, and all these organizations are trying to get rid of that actually because they don't. It's not advantageous for them for people to hold that information. It's more advantageous for the agents to hold the information. I always think of Matrix when I say agents, right?
I know, me too.
The agents have the information, but then the people are just helping facilitate the information and use it to make strategic decisions rather than just informational decisions.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, and I like the nature of work for the baby boomer aging out and the Gen X like growing in their time to age out of the workforce, and then the Gen Z coming in and millennials really like taking ownership and running. It's a really interesting thing to watch. I'm a little scared for the newest generation of workers when it comes to at least a couple things I've heard in the channel. A lot of partners right now are not hiring entry level talent. And like, where are all those people going to get the talent in order to be at the level? But that's somebody else's problem to figure out, not mine. I can only help by mentoring like I do. But it's definitely poses an interesting question when it comes to kind of what you said about the tribal knowledge living in the system versus, in some person's head who the only person on the team that knows how to do that one thing. I'm glad we're getting away from that for all kinds of reasons, but well, cool. Last thing, if you could redesign the buying process in your mind, do you have any ideas on what you think you would continue to iterate on or change?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've been doing lately, and maybe even for a longer time than I even realized, is kind of that like choose your own adventure type mentality, right? Like I don't show up to any calls with a script unless it's like, hey, you've got 60 minutes and we need to show 10 tools and it's a webinar type things, right? Like I'll have a fairly general outline for those calls, but even those are mostly unscripted, right? Because if somebody all of a sudden says, hey Ben, I want to have a call about this, and then in 5 minutes they go, actually, I didn't really realize what I wanted. This is actually what I want, right? I want to be able to pivot right then and there and say, screw that other stuff that we were just talking about. What's your need right now? Let's talk about that. Because then again, it makes them feel like they're, you're, friends with them or whatever. And you're getting that trust because you're able to pivot and you're not like, hey, actually the 60 minutes I had today, I'd specifically scheduled for this. That's all we can talk about. Very robotic, right? Like nobody likes that. And if you can quickly pivot, I think it also shows the expertise that you have, right? Because again, you're kind of going off script. I always joke about the live demo. Everyone says never to live demo. And then half of my demos, I go off script and I'm like, oh, well, I might get in there. I have no idea, but everyone says don't live demo, but I'm about to live demo. So, but if you can nail it and there's no errors, then you blow it out of the water, right? Because people are like, it was unexpected and you still knocked it out of the park, right? So I'd say that kind of choose your own adventure is mine, but I always like to come with a general framework of where we're going to go and then just be able to be flexible and pivot. And ultimately, like the call is for the person that's on the other side of the computer, right? It's not for me because I don't like, again, I already know everything that I'm talking about to you. Otherwise you wouldn't be calling me. So what do you need from me? Kind of just open forum. Let's take it in whatever direction it goes, which is again, the complete opposite of a traditional sales deck, right?
Exactly.
And it's and again, from your perspective, that is like nearly impossible to train on without just years of experience, right?
Exactly.
Like just been there, done that. You kind of know how it works.
You know the questions to ask and the answers that fall in line and how to build the solution based on the discovery.
Yeah,
all on your own. Yeah. Okay. Well, I have one silly question and then we'll wrap up. Since you talked about the Matrix, would you red pill or blue pill? Okay, I'm trying to remember which means which, because one of them is like the painful
One you stay
truth.
in the Matrix. One you stay in the Matrix. I'll look it up because I always forget too. What's blue pill? Let's look it up. Blue pill, red pill.
I started to look it up and then I got sidetracked.
Red pill symbolizes choosing to see the truth, often implying difficult, life-changing, or unsettling knowledge. The Matrix allows Neo to escape the machine-controlled illusion. Or the blue pill symbolizes staying the familiar, comfortable, but fabricated reality. It represents choosing ignorance and comfort, allowing the story to end and returning to a normal life. I feel like I'm always trying to push the envelope, so I'd probably go red pill.
I would too. I knew that about you.
See the truth, the unsettling.
Yes.
Again, I'm not somebody to sugarcoat things, and again, just
I think we're red pill for sure.
Speak the truth, whether people like it or not. And you know, some people don't like it, and that's okay. And I immediately know who my friends are and who they aren't based on if they don't like it. You just don't really care, because it's just the truth, right? Like if they can't see it, that's okay. They can live in their blue pill world, I guess.
Exactly. Have fun over there.
Yeah. Good luck.
I love it. I love it. Well, it has been such fun time chatting with you today, Ben. Thanks for being on the podcast, and appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it as well.
Yeah. And for all my listeners, thank you so much for joining. And as always, don't forget, party on.